you don't want to be a CMO that gets called out
No.
publicly for not protecting your customers' data. These laws are all about, do you have data on a customer and do you share or sell it? By definition, you cannot be a digital advertiser without doing that. And we're trying to help people do the right thing, because at the end of the day, advertising is what makes our entire economy work. And I'm trying to build something that is efficient, is standardized, and is a SaaS platform that allows companies to make this a positive instead of a drag.
Hey, it's E.B. Moss, and this is episode 45 of Insider Interviews in the second season with fabulous media marketing and advertising executives. And today's guest is no exception in the fabulous description. He's someone who keeps showing up to solve problems that the digital media industry didn't even know it had. Richy Glassberg, hello.
Hey, how are you?
I'm great. Better for seeing you.
45
Yay.
episodes. Congratulations. That's awesome.
And that's season 2. Yeah. But you're a good round number for me.
That's great.
And you have rounded up and wrangled privacy issues. You're the co-founder and CEO of Safeguard Privacy, and you're really turning compliance into, I don't know, from a nightmare into a competitive strategy. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So I'm so happy to see you, because you're like, you look up OG in media, the G stands for Glassberg. That's what I'm saying.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
I'm not calling you old, Richy, but you've been around.
Yeah, I've been doing this for a while.
Yes. Do you know that we go way back, like sort of chased each other here and there, but that landed us 400 people in common on LinkedIn. I think it's a record.
Well, I mean, I started at MTV in 1985, right out of college.
Oh my God. It's amazing.
Yep.
Well, you know, you have probably made more impact on the industry, though, than anyone I know. Not the least of which, everybody, Richy, you co-founded the IAB, the Internet Advertising Bureau, right?
Yep. Yeah, it was 35 people outside of Halsey Minor's office in CNET in San Francisco early in 1996. And then there was 8 of us as a committee. And then Rich Lafergie was the first chairman, and I was the first vice chairman for the first 6 years. It was an all-volunteer organization. And I am very proud to be part of a group of people that realized that digital needed a trade association. And like I said, it was all volunteer for the first 5, almost 6 years.
Wow.
The IAB ALM, it's the 30th anniversary, and there's a whole hour on Sunday night, and we're creating videos, we're pulling headlines, we're going to have a panel on stage, and we're going to talk about the first 10 years, the next 10 years, and the last 10 years of the IAB.
Oh my gosh. And
Oh, cool.
I'm sure over cocktails there will be discussion of where the bodies are buried. Anyway. Now, another small fact, not small, you also launched CNN.com. And if that's not OG, I don't know what is.
Well, again, you know, nobody does anything themselves except Ted Turner, right? I was part of a group of 5 people. We were all different parts of Turner, and we got called to a conference room in January of 1995, and Ted said, we're going to start a website on the internet. And I said, what's a website? And I won't repeat what he said to me. But, you know, it was 1995. There was dial-up, and there was Prodigy and CompuServe. AOL had just started sending those discs out. So it was me, Harry Matro, Scott Wolfel, Jimmy, Mark Bernstein, and we had till August 31st to get CNN.com up and launched.
Amazing.
There's some great stories with that.
Yeah, I can't wait to hear. And I want to get into more of your history because it's a long one, but I want to bring us to current day. So Safeguard Privacy, you're going to tell us all about that. But because there are a whole range of people who follow this show, give us the sort of landscape at its most basic. Like, I think there are buckets of digital media like SEO, walled gardens, open internet. Speaking of internet, what are the biggest issues that we're facing in privacy, and how does that work as a privacy 101 framework, Richy?
So that's a great question, EB. I started the company in end of 2018, early 2019, because I looked at GDPR very differently from other people. I looked at GDPR as the largest existential threat to advertising that there is. If you think about advertising from when you and I started in cable, now you fast forward 30 years later, digital's something like $275 billion marketplace in the US and television 65, the whole world is flipped.
Yeah.
And GDPR and CCPA or CPRA, the two California versions of the law, and then all the other laws that followed, essentially are written for companies that have data on a consumer. It doesn't matter if it's search, if it's a walled garden, if it's the open internet. These laws don't know that. They say, hey, EB, do you have data on Richy? And EB, as a marketer, has data on Richy. That's what these laws do. At its base level, these laws affect the entire digital ecosystem. What they're saying is, do you have data on a consumer? Okay, what rights does the consumer have? Do they have a right not to be deleted? Do they have a right to see their data? Do they have a right to know what you're doing with the data? I'm oversimplifying, EB,
but that's good. That's fine.
That's basically what's happening here. And I looked at this as the biggest existential threat to advertising that we've had. Now, AI, which has really risen in the last couple of years, it's still under privacy in a lot of ways, and I'll explain that later. But, this affects everything that is happening. Are you sharing or selling data? And the truth is, the digital ecosystem doesn't work, EB, if you don't know as a marketer who I am and what I am. And let me give you the easiest example that hopefully the whole audience will understand. I buy the same pair of Merrell sneakers every 5 years, right? I go on to Amazon, the number one commerce site out there. I go to the Merrell store on Amazon. I buy the same 10 and a half sneakers. I buy it. I complete the purchase. For the next 30 days, I see ads for those Merrell sneakers everywhere I go, right? You had that happen, right, EB?
Yep.
Right. That's what these laws are about. And it's not about the sneakers. It's the fact that the algorithm and the pixel that is tracking my movements and what I purchase and what I look at doesn't know the difference between Merrell sneakers and if I search for depression, or if I searched for cancer, or if I searched for, alcohol treatment for a friend. The algorithm doesn't know the difference.
Right.
And what people reacted to, that the regulators are reacting to, is you were getting ads for those things that were highly personal. You see why it's affecting everybody, EB? It affects you. It affects everybody who's using digital media. The algorithm doesn't know the difference between a sneaker and something that you don't want shared.
And, Richy, I research so many different kinds of companies, and I don't want the algorithm thinking that I'm the one researching, I'll use your example, depression or something, if I'm about to interview an expert in that area. And all of a sudden that starts to create a profile of me, right?
Right. That's the problem. The problem is, in your work, you're doing this stuff, or you're doing it for a family friend, or you're doing it for yourself, right? I mean, EB, we talk about, that video I posted on LinkedIn. It's incredibly powerful. It's a parents walking through the mall with their little girl, and all these strangers keep coming, hey, how was your birthday party?
Yep.
Hey, how was this? Hey, I heard you did great at the soccer game. Why? Because the family was posting on social media.
Yeah.
And the point is that you don't realize what you're putting out there. You think, oh, I'm putting these lovely videos on Instagram or on Facebook or on TikTok or whatever for my family, for my friends, and I put it friends only, but everybody can see that.
Yes.
And that's the problem, right?
So this kind of stuff terrifies me, but Richy, I really feel like maybe the horse is out of the barn. Is there any way that we're going to corral all this data back in? And I'll use another of my famous cliches, because it's like drinking from a fire hose. Discuss.
So the answer is, I don't know, EB.
What?
I don't know.
You're wearing the hat that says safeguard privacy, Richie. You're the foremost expert.
So the truth is, the infrastructure that's been built over the last 30 years and programmatic over the last 15 years wasn't built with the concept of protecting EB and Richie's privacy.
Yeah.
That's the problem. The problem is there are major companies that are public or private that have built their entire tech stack around the idea of a numerical identifier that is the underpinning of your device graph. Mm-hmm. That's the problem. So, what's broken is the concept of, am I compliant or are my partners compliant? So that's what I set out to fix, right?
Okay.
The reality is I am a legal compliance company. There's a lot of companies. There's over 700 companies in privacy. I wasn't the first. There's some famous ones, but they're technical companies. They do those boxes that pop up and say, hey, EB, do you mind cookies? Or do you want to opt out of this? Or what do you want to do? Those are called consent boxes.
Okay.
There's companies that do CMPs that manage your customer database with, did EB or Richie opt out? Did they opt in? What did they want to do? There's literally hundreds of companies that do that. I'm trying to change the model of the legal compliance where for the last 500 years you'd pay a lawyer by the hour. And the truth is a lot of this stuff should be on a SaaS platform. A lot of what you're asking of yourself or your vendor is, am I compliant? And it's asking them questions. And what I did was I hired a bunch of incredibly smart and famous privacy lawyers, and we standardized it. Because the problem was everybody was writing their own question, EB.
Okay.
So let me explain what the problem was. People were trying to do this. So you'd go to a law firm to write a questionnaire. Well, if you're Google, you may get 2,000 of those a month. So you don't answer them. You have this standard letter that says, please look at my privacy policy. If you're a major publisher, a New York Times, a Washington Post, I'm making it up, EB. I'm not saying they're getting these. But you're somebody like that, you may get 40, 50, 60 a month. They're all different, EB. So think of the amount of time that's wasted by the sales team, the operations team, and the legal team on the vendors who are answering these huge questionnaires. There's one holding company that asks 999 questions. It's stupid.
It's a mess.
Right, it's a mess, right? And if you're a publisher, you're being asked questions like you were a DSP. If you're a publisher, all of a sudden they're asking questions like you're a data provider or an SSP or a clean room. So not only was everybody asking their own questions, they were asking the wrong questions for what you do. So that's what I tried to solve.
So where are we with this standardization effort?
So it's been 4 years of doing this. The second largest bank in America at CES in 2020 asked me to solve this, and I worked with them for 14 months on taking it from a spreadsheet and a PDF and a law firm and junior people at an agency sending this out to a secure platform. And in that evolution, the IAB has now adopted us. So we are the standardized assessment. We're the IAB diligence platform. So Safeguard Privacy is the white label behind now the largest trade association, the IAB.
The one you founded.
Right? It's so what we've done is we've standardized it, and this was all done by the IAB, brought together 80 of the top companies, 10 law firms. They agreed that our legal assessment was the industry standard. And then they wrote additional questionnaires that were modules. So if you were doing this on a DSP, you could say, here's the data flow questions for a DSP. If you were doing this for a publisher, here's what I would ask a publisher. And it's expanded. We have questions for a social media platform. We just added the DOJ bulk data transfer rule. This is a living, breathing platform because all these laws in the US keep changing. California's just made like the 800th change to the regulations, which go in effect on January 1st.
But Richie, you mentioned California. That's one of 19 or 20 state laws.
It's hard to count. There are some people that say 20, some people say 19, but basically, EB, you're right. We have a patchwork of legislation in the U.S. And the truth is, If you're a CPG, you're a bank, you're an automotive, you're a retailer, you got to comply with all these laws because the state AGs are enforcing this.
And I want to ask about enforcement, but basically, Safeguard Privacy is the destination for how the heck do I wrap my head around this, and what are the tools that I need to have in place?
Yep. So we're the only auditable independent platform out there. So you can have your auditor, your outside auditor do it. You can show it to a regulator. It is a compliance platform. It is permission-based. It is auditable. It is time-stamped. So you can say, hey, Ms. AG at Connecticut, here's the work I did. And they say, great, you comply with our law, right?
Richy, I also want to applaud you because, look, I've learned a lot about privacy and compliance and the definition of things in researching this conversation. And one of the things that helped me recognize the magnitude of this and what a company has to go through is your playbook. And it's a free PDF. I'm not shilling for you. I adore you, and I'll sell you till the cows come home. But I'm so impressed by this 6-page PDF that walks you through what do you have to think about, what has to be in place, how do I tell my IT department or my vendor that these are the things they have to consider. It's so well written. It's such a good educational tool, and I got hives reading it because thank God I'm not in a position where I'm capturing data.
EB, thanks for that. We actually have a ton of stuff like that in the platform and free on the website. This is one of the most complicated things that a marketer has to worry about.
Yeah.
If you're a CMO, the brand risk of saying that the California regulator says that you violated privacy of the consumers, you don't want that. And this takes lawyers, this takes data people, this takes product people. This is literally touches almost every part of your organization. And there are some key points that I want to, you brought up the playbook.
Yep.
By law, under GDPR and now in the US, you have to make sure you're compliant. And you know what? Going biblical here, EB, you're your brother's keeper. You are responsible for your vendors and your vendors' vendors. And this is now under the law. And if you don't do it, as of January 1st in California, not only do you need to assess them, you have to write a report saying, I did this. And they're going to look back from 2028 to January of 2026. And you literally have to have, it's almost like Sarbanes-Oxley. You have to have an attestation from someone in your company saying, here's my name and I'm putting it, and if you don't, it's a huge liability. It's crazy.
And is this getting enforced a lot?
Well, yes. I mean, I don't want to call out names, but, there was a major enforcement to Sephora. There has been a major enforcement to Honda. There's been a major enforcement to Healthline. There's been a major enforcement to Tractor Supply. There's hundreds of letters and investigations that are going out every month. And it's not just California. The interesting thing, EB, is, and those are all public, the California is set up, the law set up an enforcement agency next to the California AG's office. So you've got the state AG's office, the Attorney General, and this enforcement, which is funded with 40 enforcement lawyers. And now California has pulled together a consortium of 8 states, and all those AGs, it's New Jersey, it's Connecticut, it's Colorado. There's 8 states that are now working with California, and they're all sharing information and they're going after people together. If I'm a marketer, I'm terrified.
Yeah, I'm terrified just hearing about it. And this is small companies too, right?
Right. So the big thing that people said was they all rushed around for years and got ready for GDPR. There is an argument that in Europe, most of the fines were the big platforms, the Googles, the Apples, the Facebooks, the X's, all these big things. That's a conversation that people are having. In the US, enforcement is lagging, but over the last 5-6 months, enforcement has started to happen. And if you talk to any of the lawyers at law firms, they are seeing literally hundreds of letters, from the California's AG's office and the California Protection Agency
Yep.
with these other 8 states saying, hey, EB, you're the CMO of XYZ. Have you checked your vendor contracts? Have you done this? Have you done that? And it takes a lot of time. I can help with the documentation, but that you need a law firm, you need an outside law firm, and you have to respond. And there's no cure period now. There was a 30-day cure period. Now, if you haven't done something and the protection office wants to go after you,
Your SOL.
right now, EB, it gets worse. You may have heard of a bunch of these plaintiff lawsuits. So the plaintiffs bar, that's not the
Yeah.
state AGs. They're suing every company out there under an old California law, a wiretapping law called SIPA. And they're saying that the pixels on your website are an illegal wiretap. Now, I don't want to get into the legality of it because everybody's fighting this, but that's a problem. If you're a major retailer, you can have pixels that have been there. EB, you know this.
Yeah.
10 or 15 years. You don't even know why they're there.
That seems sort of like that wasn't the law when those pixels went out there necessarily.
But the
I don't
people
know.
law has been around for a while, so they're using that to sue people.
Oh,
Right.
shoot.
So
All right.
California legislature is trying to have a law that supersedes it, but the old stuff, all I'm saying, EB, is enforcement is happening not just from attorney generals.
Yeah.
If you're a marketer and you've got pixels on your website and you haven't done a technical sniffer and you haven't done our legal due diligence and you haven't checked your contracts, you got a fight on your hands.
And Richie, you also talked about this one time where one example is not just check your contracts, but check your inbox. And people who are requesting that their data be removed or what have you, those emails are going unread and unaddressed. And that's a huge issue too, right?
So that was the California Attorney General at a public event on stage said, they're very smart. They have technical experts. They know as much as we know about this stuff. So people who think the attorney generals can't do this are tragically wrong. Like you used to be tragically hip, EB.
I am.
Right. Not you, but I meant you as the society. We're all tragically hip, EB. She made a comment that they decided to send the letter instead of to the lawyer, they sent it to the privacy at xyz.com because that's the mechanism
company.
Because that's what they had on their privacy policy. And nobody checked the inbox and nobody responded to them. And her point was, if you're not checking your inbox that's in your public privacy policy, then I don't believe you're doing anything right. It freaked everybody out.
Yeah. Well, I want to go from freaking people out, reminding people safeguard privacy is there to help. But one of the things that you actually say on your site is that, wait, let me look. Privacy compliance doesn't have to slow growth. Standardize it, make it auditable, and it becomes a competitive advantage. What does that mean?
So think about how digital media works. Think about any media works. Standardization equals scale. If you know what the print size ad is, you can make it. One of the first things we did at the IAB when we were all volunteer was we created the standard banner sizes. Why?
Richie, wait, do you know that I was on that committee?
I ran that committee, 60 companies.
It was called IDEA. Yes, Bud Braheny brought me in. Yes.
So Rich Laferge, who's the chairman, he said, Richie, we got a problem. 50% of all internet advertising is going to sizing ads.
Yep.
And what we did was we saw that there were 750 different ad sizes, but we did a regression analysis, the engineers at CNN, and 8 of the banner sizes were within 10% of all the others.
And we named like skyscraper ad and what are the dimensions and labeled them and yes.
468 by 60, the square, and that exploded internet growth.
But we digress. I'm sorry. It was all about me for a second.
No, but even that's what we did and that's what happened.
Standardization.
If you don't have the IAB Tech Lab standards on programmatic, then you can't communicate with anyone.
Right.
Standards are throughout our whole industry. So let's standardize the assessment. Why? So that a vendor, the New York Times, the Washington Post, NBCU can do it once, prove they're compliant, with the industry standard and share it multiple times. Privacy doesn't have to slow growth. It doesn't have to get in the way of deals. If you're a good actor, demonstrate your privacy, and through the platform, you can show it to anybody out there. Cool. It is a huge unlock, EB.
Richy, you've already demonstrated that this is so complicated and we're on our way to standardization. And so that answers the question of, I'll let my lawyer look at it. This is why people need a company like yours that is the backbone of IAB diligence. But another way you've been ahead of the curve, you also launched some AI overlays to what you're doing. I think it's called Privacy Assist AI. Yep. So now you're leveraging tech to improve how we standardize things.
So let's be clear. Our software doesn't replace a law firm. You still need your law firm. You still need in-house lawyers. We make it more efficient.
Got it.
We make it so that instead of the junior associate that you're paying a ridiculous amount for to ask a silly question, do you capture names? Do you capture Social Security? What do you capture? All the standardization is in the platform, and you still need that awesome law firm for the partner because every vendor is different. Every publisher is different, every ad tech company, and your secret sauce, you need a lawyer to do that. But now let's talk about lawyers. You do need lawyers. Lawyers are not bad out there. Lawyers don't love AI right now for a couple of reasons. The big reason is it hallucinates, right?
Yeah.
The second big reason is the data leakage. The definition of an LLM is the more data that goes in, the better it gets. So we wanted to build an AI tool that would work for law. Now, in 5 or 10 years, will this get solved by AI? It might. There's a lot of people working on it. But today is when we need it. So what are the problems? There's 3 problems we're trying to solve. One, our assessment, the multi-state assessment, which is groundbreaking we did, which covers all 19 states in one assessment, and the IAB modules, it's a lot of questions. You got to go through a lot of this stuff. You need an internal lawyer, you need data people. Again, you do it once, you could share it, but it still takes a lot. The second problem we're trying to solve is, and I'll go through them, we're not going to have 100% of the market. There's still people paying law firms or in-house lawyers stupid amount of money to write their own questionnaire. So you got to be able to answer that.
Okay.
The third problem is we've got major pharmas, major retailers, major banks using us. And if you get 100 data companies with their assessments back, you still got to go through it, right? Mm-hmm. So those are the 3 problems. So here's how we tried to solve it. Our team, working with Microsoft, our whole platform's in Microsoft Azure. One of the key points of the Safeguard Privacy platform and the IAB diligence is we live in the cloud on the secure banking side of Azure. So we never touch your iron. We never touch your tech stack. You can integrate us in 5 minutes. That is a key selling point and a key security point. Because if you're a major marketer, you don't want me on your tech stack. I never touch your person, right? Never touch it. That's a huge security risk. We take that off the table.
Got it.
What we did was we used the next generation enterprise model from Microsoft that we could license, and we actually built all the prompts by lawyers. Our entire platform is written by lawyers for lawyers. What we can do for the first product is, hey, you're an SSP, you're a DSP, you're a publisher, you're a CPG. You've got a major privacy policy and you got a bunch of documents. So our entire platform is built like an ad server. So everybody's got a secure instance. We built this AI product into each assistant. One, takes away all the data leakage. It never leaves your instance.
Okay.
2, we wrote all the prompts and we had lawyers deep dive on the prompts. And what we can do is read your own documents, and EB, we pre-populate all these assessments. But the key point of this is, we call it Privacy Assist. It doesn't answer it for you. The lawyer goes through it and says, yep, like this answer, I'll use this. Nope,
okay.
Fix this. So you see what I'm saying?
Yes, I do.
Right?
Yep, like a double blind. Yep.
That's why we call it Privacy Assist. One of the largest ad tech companies in the world, which is based in Europe, the global chief privacy officer was our beta tester and used it. And he basically said, Richy, I went from 2 to 3 days to answer all this right to about 80 minutes.
Got it.
That is an incredibly powerful tool, and we're dealing with all the issues that lawyers are terrified. If you're at a major CPG, you don't want to put your stuff in there. You don't want it to go to an LLM. So we did it in a way that you're always in control. We've written all the prompts. We'll continue to update the prompts. And it uses your documentation, and it lets you choose, have I done this? So it's a groundbreaking legal AI product, actually.
It sounds, Richy, like the best of both worlds of that. Combine the human with the AI and help streamline and make lives
easier. And your lawyer is always in the mix.
But I did promise that we would talk a little bit more about you, because this is, I don't know, like your 7th startup. And aside from all the people we have in common, give us the bullet points of, after MTV and CNN, how did you end up in this space? Give us your little mini resume.
So I like to say, I started in cable. I did every live show on MTV before I got on the business side. I learned how to make the content. Then I got
on the production side?
Yeah, I did.
How cool.
I started 2 weeks before Live Aid. I did the first 2 spring breaks ever on MTV, the New Year's Eve show. I did the pilot of Yo MTV Raps. I was such
Everybody wanted to be your friend.
It was awesome. That's all I'll say. It was awesome doing every live show on MTV. And I begged him to get into sales. Like, what are you, crazy? I'm like, yeah. And I like to say my origin story is I learned how to make the product. Then I learned how to sell the product. And I thought I was just fat, dumb, and happy. And I was, selling cable, because that's what, we did. And I went from MTV to Turner, the #1 sales organization. I was learning every single day. And then I got called into this meeting with Harry Matro and Scott Wolfel and Jimmy. And
where were they?
They were all at CNN. They were on the business side in Atlanta. And they said, start CNN.com. And we did. And I learned that I like building things. It was amazing. There was no email at Turner Broadcasting. We had to go to CompUSA in the basement. And I've got the book on one of the libraries here, Access the Internet, which was a spiral-bound book with a floppy disk in the back, so that the 5 of us, could have an email address. And, this was zero. People don't understand that. And I realized that I love building things from scratch. And so I did that. And then I'm running CNN.com globally and running the IAB as the vice chairman under Rich. I realized there wasn't a rep firm for premium internet. And there was just DoubleClick with 5,000 sites you didn't know, and 24/7 with 5,000 sites you didn't know. And General Motors didn't want to advertise on those because they didn't want to be on Richy.com. And I built my first startup on my own. I left and I started Phase 2 Media, which was the first premium ad network out there. We represented all the Hachette properties, the Sydney Olympics,
amazing,
the NHL, all this stuff. And we grew huge, and we grew to all these people and filed to go public. And then the internet boom crashed.
Yep.
And then I went to News Corp and did 2 real internal startups at News Corp, one Speed Channel and the other Gemstart TV Guide, which were really turnarounds.
Yep.
Very different things. Gemstart TV Guide was literally the underpinnings of guides on all of digital and the first digital ads on cable head ends, which was really cool. Went out to San Francisco, did a startup for a year and a half in the medical, digital space. And then more exciting was the VCs brought me in with a brilliant CEO, Eric Lippman. He had started the first mobile creative company, and we pivoted that to be the first mobile buy-side ad server, which was a blast. And we built that for all the holding companies out there. And then when Google got into mobile, it changed the equation of the world out there, as you say, on the business side. So we sold that to WPP. So really then I went out and I started Safeguard Privacy. Phase 2 Media and Safeguard Privacy are my own 2 companies that I've done literally from a blank sheet of paper. And the rest was either a startup inside a big media company or a turnaround. And I realized I like being on the cutting edge of something that hasn't happened. Clearly. So when I talk to business schools, EB, I talk about you find your passion not in your first job out of college. You don't go out of college and say, I'm going to disintermediate taxi cabs. You go learn something and you say, hey, this could be better. I could fix this. This is where the world is going.
I'm so proud of you. It's so impressive. But Richy, I will also say, like, with the CNN and Medialettes and all of that, you kind of created the monster you're trying to tame now. Am I right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Look, I will tell one story that I tell publicly. It was 97 or 98. We did great at CNN.com. Brands knew what CNN was, and they wanted to advertise on digital when they were getting their toes. So we had all these major brands, and we just killed it. Well, a small company out of Colorado convinced General Motors that they needed to have a pixel to count their ads because there really wasn't ComScore, there wasn't any of this stuff out there. And everybody in the industry turned it down. Everybody said, nope, this is really dangerous. Well, I got a phone call from the very famous head of media at GM, Karen Richy, to go to her office in Detroit. Went to her office with a bunch of people. Everybody in the room is famous. They're all running stuff now. And she said, Richy, she's huffing her cigarettes. Richy, we got a problem. She goes, we need to do this pixel. I said, Miss Richy, I can't take this pixel. I'm the vice chairman of the IAB. The industry doesn't want it. I really can't do this. And she looked at me, huffing her cigarette. She said, Richy, you got 5 minutes to take the pixel. If you don't, I'm going back in my office and I'm calling Ted and I'm canceling all the money that GM spends on TBS, TNT, and all the money we spend on CNN. I said, Miss Richy, you don't have to make that phone call. I'll take that pixel right now. I literally took the first 1-by-1 tracking pixel for a little company out of Colorado for General Motors. I went to the airport. I called Rich the Virgin. He wanted to kill me, Evie. But the truth is, that's how this business works. She was spending on Turner Broadcasting, I don't know what it was, EB, $1 million, which was a huge digital budget.
Yeah, sure.
On CNN.com. And I understood. I worked for a big media company. She wasn't going to make that call to Ted Turner. So yes, I did create some of the monster that we have out here. We created the first mobile ad server, Eric Littman and I and the team.
It's incredible. You know, speaking of things that you've created that have impacted people, on the personal side, I often ask about a definition of brand purpose. And in your case, Richy, I want to talk about your personal brand purpose. I don't know how many people know this, but you're the founding member of breastcancer.org. And it's such a different space from digital and privacy tech. But tell me about that.
So it's actually not. It's actually the thing I'm most proud of in my entire career. So when I left CNN.com to start Phase 2 Media, my older sister, got a terrible diagnosis with breast cancer. She's alive and well today. She's doing great, but it was horrible. And we thought she had 3 months to live. And a woman that I knew introduced me to a woman named Dr. Marisa Weiss. And she had written the book, Living Beyond Breast Cancer. And she's a breast cancer radiologist in Philadelphia. And she was on the phone with us, ask about this, call this, think about this. And she gave my sister tremendous advice and comfort, and my mom and I. And my sister made it through. And those 9 months were really bad. And when my sister turned the corner, Dr. Weiss called me up and said, okay, big shot, you're Mr. CNN.com, you're Mr. Phase 2 Media, you're Mr. IAB. I got a website I want to start. And it was a horrible name, Evie. It was I Love Breast Health. And she wasn't a marketer. I said, Marisa, we got to own breastcancer.org. And not to make this too long, but back then there wasn't GoDaddies. It was very hard to get names. Long story short, I went and bought it. We bought the name. We helped her find the consultant. And I basically helped her found breastcancer.org. Why? My belief is that the internet should be peer-reviewed, democratically distributed information. And breastcancer.org is now almost 25 years old. We serve about 23 million unique women around the world in English and Spanish. I ran the Bowl-a-thon for 11 years after the financial crisis in 2008.
And I met your sister there. And by the way, sidebar, she and my sister-in-law were in rabbinical school together, and I found that out at your Bowl-a-thon.
That's the best. Look, the most important thing is we are the only informational peer-reviewed site for women in the world. We cover everything about breast cancer. The whole point of breastcancer.org is that when you go to the doctor and she or he says to you, you got breast cancer, and you go tell your family, everybody's crying, at 2 a.m, you sit up and you go to your Google and you type in breast cancer, breastcancer.org comes up.
Thank you, Richy.
Well, the thing I'm most proud of is that 23 million women a year don't know my name. It is an incredible organization chokes me up. We run the whole thing on about $5 million bucks a year. It is a
Jeez.
charity navigator, 4-star
Yes.
rated charity.
Which I support every year with breastcancer.org in the mail. So thank you. And it certainly touched my family and so many others. And you're a mensch.
The whole point is to help people.
Yeah. And so if we can put digital to good, that's
right,
you.
But it's what I'm doing with Safeguard Privacy, EB.
Yes, I know.
I'm trying
You
to
are.
look. It's not supposed to be disinformation. It's supposed to be real peer-reviewed information.
Democratizing access to information.
Yep.
Richy, I'm so thrilled to have learned so much about you personally, professionally, about privacy. This is why I love doing this show. I hear and learn so much. And we're not even going to get into the fact that you have a black belt and you love Jack Russell Terriers. That'll be for another episode. But leave it with what you're working on now. What else are you bringing to the future of Safeguard Privacy?
Thank you, Mike. Jack Russells are amazing. And yeah, I've been training martial arts for 30 years because for your brain, for your soul, for your body, it's an amazing thing to do. What am I thinking about? I'm thinking about how privacy laws are going to evolve.
Yep.
I'm thinking about how publishers are going to have to deal with AI and machine learning and decision making. And I'm worried about how we can keep the open internet viable and information free and democratized for people out there and meet the regulatory requirements that are massive in the US and globally in an efficient way for publishers, marketers especially. So we're continuing to work on our AI products. We're going to have the big launch for the AI RFI to help people answer non-standardized RFIs.
That's a new product, right?
New product that's coming out. The other new product is for the CMOs and for the chief privacy officers and the general counsels at marketers that are using our platform. So we're building an AI product that will go through the answers for you, look at their public documents to make sure they filled that out right. We're adding a new, with the IAB, a new clean room module, and we continue to stay on top of all the new legislation. We're your privacy ninjas out there. So we're building new things literally every day on the platform.
I love the fact that you are always looking out for bodies of work and bodies. And Richy Glassberg, co-founder and CEO of Safeguard Privacy, thank you for being here and for really continuing to build this infrastructure that our industry really needs, even when we don't realize that we need it yet.
EB, thank you for having me. I'm really proud to be on this. You've had some great guests, and I love the work you're doing.
Thank you. So just in our last minute here, I hope you got some good insider scoop from this episode of Insider Interviews. And I would love it if you would share, like, comment, review, or maybe even donate to buymeacoffee.com/mossappeal if you want to tip me for this. And I also want to thank John Clayton for composing my theme music, Jim Mullen for being producer extraordinaire, and you for listening, watching, following Insider Interviews wherever you get good B2B content.